Welcome to Wheels on the Bike. Another winter, another cold riding season in Toronto. In this video, I'll walk you through my complete cold weather riding setup. I will also show you a pretty rough commute because riding in the winter can be difficult. This video is sponsored by Insta360. The secret to winter riding is smart layering. I double up on everything: socks, tights, tops. Under my jacket, 3 full layers. On my head, I wear a 2-piece balaclava to prevent lens fogging, safety goggles over my glasses, thin liner mittens on my hands, and my regular winter boots. Nothing fancy needed. I keep my bike indoors at my condo, which means that it's always ready to go and the bike is protected from the elements. And this is what my fall winter setup looks like once everything is on the bike. We'll go over all these components later on in the video. Here's the thing about winter cycling. Gear is important, but infrastructure is just as critical. I'm incredibly fortunate to have a separated multi-use trail that gets maintained in the winter. Safety is the biggest barrier to winter cycling. When bike paths aren't cleared, people just don't ride. It's that simple. The risk just isn't worth it. I've been riding year-round since 2019, and I'm seeing more winter cyclists every year. Now let's talk about the bike modifications. This is my ride in full winter mode. It's a recent Molar Nevo pedal assist e-bike, and this is my 3rd winter putting it through its paces. Let's look at tires. I swapped the front for a studded winter tire. Why just the front one? Because I still haven't figured out how to change the rear tire. Yeah, 3 years. Real talk. Studded tires are very helpful, but if you hit a rough patch of ice at a certain angle, they may not be enough to keep you upright. Regardless, I wouldn't ride without them, and they are an essential part of my winter setup. The bike has fenders and mud flaps, both at the front and at the rear. These help keep the bike clean and keep me from getting sprayed with salt, grime, and whatever else they're using to maintain the trail. Fenders are non-negotiable. My e-bike has sealed internal gears and a Gates carbon belt drive instead of a chain. This is huge for winter maintenance. No rust and way less hassle. Pedals. I run flat pedals year-round. The ones I use have built-in spikes for traction, which allows me to wear whatever kind of footwear I need and keeps my winter boots locked on. Pogies or handlebar mitts. These stay on my handlebars all winter, and they're absolute game changers. They block the wind chill and create this warm air pocket around my hands. Pogies allow me to ride wearing only thin liner gloves. If I didn't have them, my hands would be freezing. Battery life, yeah, it drops in the winter. Let me know if you experience this as well if you ride an e-bike. I use a neoprene cover to protect the battery from the cold, but battery life and as a result, range are still impacted. Now all these winter rides deserve to be documented, and that's where the Insta360 GO Ultra comes in. I've been using it throughout the season and it handles the cold remarkably well. It's a compact 4K camera with a flip-up touchscreen and detachable design that makes it incredibly versatile. Perfect for POV shots and creative angles. I like using it handheld. The articulating screen makes framing a breeze. It's very easy to flip the screen and adjust it to just the right angle to improve visibility of what I'm filming. When the standalone camera is mounted out of the pod, like in this case it's mounted on my head, I use the action pod as a preview screen and a remote control. The two work seamlessly together. But where this camera really shines is in its mounting options. 90% of the time I only use the standalone camera. It's tiny, lightweight, and easy to mount anywhere. In this example, I paired it with an old motorcycle clamp with a quick release mount so I can move the camera around the bike quickly. Capturing POV angles is a breeze, no elaborate setups required. Here I'm using the Easy Clip headband to capture a hands-free action shot. It's easy, it's convenient, and most importantly, light. It doesn't feel like I'm carrying a brick on my head. And pro tip, you can also wrap the headband in other places. Another POV favorite of mine is the magnetic mount. Here I'm attaching an articulating accessory through my jacket. The magnetic connection is that strong. And to that I attach the standalone camera. I then check the angle of the camera on the action pod to make sure all is good. And here's what the setup looks like, unassuming and low maintenance. And here's what the POV footage is like out of the GO Ultra. Another flexible, no pun intended, accessory that I've been using is the monkey tail mount. Super flexible and lets me position the camera off the bike for those ride bike captures. If you are interested in purchasing the Go Ultra, please consider using my affiliate code. Quick question for you. Do you ride in the winter? Why or why not? Drop a comment and let me know. Shout out to whoever was cross-country skiing that day. Perfect conditions for it and perhaps a new mode of transport in Toronto? Also, what has your winter been like? Ours has had record-breaking low temperatures and snowfall. I love winters like this. Lots of snow and very cold. Here's what the audio quality is like when I'm speaking from behind the balaclava. Right behind me, the beautiful, frozen Lake Ontario. Now let me show you footage from an actual snowy commute to work. This ride followed a couple of days after a record-breaking snowfall event in Toronto, where we received upwards of 50 centimeters of snow. I checked the trail the previous night and was pleasantly surprised to see that it was cleared. This emboldened me to commute to work by bike. Big mistake. Huge mistake. But I didn't know it at the time, so I happily rode along, thankful that the city had cleared the route. It wasn't until I got about halfway to work that I noticed the snow started getting deeper, and I needed to get off the saddle to steady myself more and more often. While these conditions were far from ideal, the trail was still rideable, but this was about to change. As I kept riding, the snow kept getting deeper, and I realized that the wind had pushed all the cleared snow onto the bike path, all half a meter of it, making it simply impassable. The only option was to push the bike through this section. But pushing an 80-pound e-bike is not that easy. I was getting stuck and very tired. If you ever pushed a loaded touring bike through loose, dry sand, the experiences are comparable. Tough going and physically demanding. At some point, I noticed a cyclist behind me and one in front of me. And as the trail was gone, it was fully snowed in at this point, we all headed for the road, as it was the only clear thoroughfare. I attempted to ride, but very quickly realized that the blowing snow made the road conditions difficult, and riding was simply not an option for me, not a safe one. I didn't want to fall and end up underneath someone's wheel, so I did the only thing I could do. I got off the bike and once again, pushed it along. Credit to the drivers that day. Nobody honked, nobody close past me. All the drivers gave me a lot of space and most likely had a laugh at the silly cyclist pushing her bike on a major road. But nobody was getting anywhere in a hurry that day. The road did eventually improve and I was once again able to ride. The conditions were slushy and slippery, but rideable, and I was so thankful not to have to push my bike through snow anymore. That would change, but in the meantime, I was upright and I was riding. All that effort physically exhausted me. And here's where layering saved the day. I was hot, I was sweating, and that's a recipe for disaster when riding in the winter. Luckily, I was able to unzip some layers to provide much needed ventilation. I went back on the trail, and at this point, I really wasn't expecting much. And soon after, I hit another snowed-in section. More pushing. Much more pushing. And as this was an actual commute to work, and as I had a meeting that morning, I decided to just park my bike and let my colleagues know that I was running late. I still had about 4 kilometers to ride, and the state of the trail simply did not inspire confidence. In the end, I safely reached my destination, thankful for the secure, temperature-controlled indoor parking at work. This type of parking is essential. When I used to park outside for 8+ hours, it was rough on the bike and all the components. And then there's theft. Toronto has a lot of busy fingers, so secure parking is a must. During winter, I usually ride home in the dark, so I double up on the lights, both at the front and at the back. Visibility of myself and being able to see in the dark are important for my safety. Back home, I switched to maintenance mode. In the winter, the bike is often filthy, so I find a drain inside the parkade, do a quick rinse, pour hot water over components that need attention most, And after rinsing everything down, I bring the bike up to my condo. To keep cleanup manageable inside, I have a plastic cover over the carpet and use 2 shoe trays to catch any debris, because inevitably, as everything thaws, there's a lot of gunk dripping off the bike, and I don't want that on my carpet. And that's what winter cycling is like for me. Thanks for watching.